Chatters, chatties, welcome home for a Great American Chat, a podcast where we chat about great American media. I'm Chad Maurice, and today we are chatting about the fourth episode of Destination Heaven. But before that, I have to remind you about the Great American Book Club. Last week I said the book club was meeting on June 20th, but apparently they had changed the schedule, and I didn't know it. They're actually meeting this Friday, June 28th. At 7 o'clock Eastern on Zoom. Nancy Nagel is going to join Cammie and Father Randy to discuss her book, The Law of Attraction. And of course, you can sign up for the Great American Book Club on Great American Family's website at greatamericanfamily.com. Let's get into Destination Heaven. The fourth episode, this one's titled Scenes from a Marriage. It's directed by Matt Shapira, written by Will Fuller. Guest stars Carrie Wampler, who plays Danica, a woman who's not sure marriage is for her. And Brian Molina plays Alex, her husband-to-be. The synopsis says, a young woman's future married life flashes before her eyes in a string of mishaps and heartaches. While questioning if she should get married, God offers a new way of looking at marriage and life. The episode starts off with Danica and Alex the night before their wedding. They are organizing the seating arrangements for their wedding reception. And they have a map of the place with the tables and the names all over this bulletin board. And it looks like a murder board. They begin arguing. She says, I don't know why I thought we would agree on this. We don't agree on anything. Why don't we try to get through tomorrow and then be happy for the rest of our lives? Then we see them coming out of the church the next day as bride and groom. They get into a limo and she says, what did we just do? We have to be together for the rest of our lives. She says, this was a mistake. We should have never gotten married. This is never going to last. We should just end it right now. I don't know why I ever said yes to begin with. Alex is like, huh? What are you talking about? Then we see her talking to God, and we realize that the scene we just saw of them leaving the church and talking in the limo didn't happen. It was just her telling God what she thinks will happen. God says, wait a minute. You don't think your marriage is going to make it out of the parking lot? She says, I don't know what to think. That's why I needed to pray to you so you could tell me what to do. God says, I can't tell you what to do, but you don't know if what you just imagined is really going to happen. He says, why don't you try to imagine your future differently? So then we see her imagining her and Alex coming out of the church again and getting into the limo. She has her doubts again, but this time she gets over it and says, it's okay. We are going to be happy. God says, see, that wasn't so difficult. You got things off to a good start that time. She says, yeah, for 2 minutes, but then we have to live together. And I know exactly how that's going to go. Then she imagines her and Alex moving into their new place. She opens up a drawer and says, why are there batteries and takeout menus in this drawer? This is where utensils go. He says, I moved the utensils to a better place. She says, this is ridiculous. If you're going to make decisions without me, this is never going to work. God says, you got mad at him because he moved forks. She says, I want to be able to make decisions without my husband overruling everything I say. God says, have you ever thought about compromising? She says, if I do that, I won't get exactly what I want. God says, how about you imagine a different scenario of your moving in together? Be a better version of yourself. So she tries it again. Again, she gets upset when she sees batteries and takeout menus in the silverware drawer, and they start to argue again. God rewinds her imagination and says, "Why don't you listen to him and take what he is saying into consideration?" She gives in to what her husband wants, but then she says to him, "What if I want ice cream? The freezer is over here and silverware is way over there." He says, "Okay, how about we have separate drawers? You have a drawer here and I'll have a drawer over there." She says, "Separate drawers? What do you want next? Separate beds?" Then God reminds her again about compromise and says, "Give it another try." So she tells her husband, "Okay, I'll compromise, and we will try separate drawers." She asks, "Is compromising with him always going to be this difficult? You think I can keep this up for the rest of our lives?" Alex says, "Who are you talking to?" Then we see her back talking to God. She says, "This is never going to work. First, we argue about where to put things. Then we're going to have lawyers arguing for us, deciding who gets custody of our pot-bellied pig." God's like, "Pot-bellied pig?" She says, "Yeah, I always wanted one." God says, "Don't be ridiculous." She says, "Love can bloom sometimes." He says, "Think of the movie When Harry Met Sally." She says, "What's that?" He says, "The Notebook." She says, "I never saw it." He says, "The Princess Bride." She says, "Nope." God is God is like, "You got to be kidding me." He tells her that love never fails. She says, "You got to be kidding me. Seriously?" God says, "I don't understand why you think your marriage will fail." She says, "Because a failed marriage is all I ever saw growing up." Then, oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I wanted to mention in this last scene. I thought this was a funny scene. I thought there was a lot of good lines, good writing in this scene. I like when God is mentioning all those movies and movies that she has never seen. So then we get a flashback of her as a young teen overhearing her parents arguing. And they have the actress who's playing the younger version of her wearing a horrendous wig. I don't know what's up with that. I'm guessing that the actress has dark hair and she didn't want to dye her hair blonde, so they put this wig on her. So God tells her, "Your parents' marriage took a lot of work. That doesn't mean they had a bad marriage." She says, "That doesn't make sense. If something is good, it would be easy." God says, "Not everything that is good is easy." And he gives her examples like climbing a mountain, building an airplane. He explains that marriage is a beautiful thing, but it takes a lifetime of work. She then has another flashback of her parents making up after the argument. She says to God, "But shouldn't two people who like each other get along all the time?" God tells her, "You need to learn how to live with someone else and not always get your way." He says, "You can make a marriage work for a lifetime, just like your parents did." She says, "Wait a minute. My parents' marriage didn't last a lifetime." Then she has another flashback of when her father passed away from cancer. She asks God, "Am I just setting myself up for something bad that might happen in my marriage like my parents?" God says, "You don't know that something bad will happen." She says, "No, but it might." God says, "Yes, it could, but you can't live in fear your entire life." She says, "It's not fear. It happened to me once. It can happen again." Then she has a flash forward with Alex on the phone getting news that he might have cancer. She tells God, "I couldn't go through that again." God says, whatever happens to you and Alex, the life you live will be worth it." She says, "I don't know if I have the strength to chase happily ever after." God says, "Nobody lives happily ever after. Life is full of challenges and ups and downs. He says your life is going to be full of good things and bad things, whether you get married or not. Accepting someone in your life comes with the possibility of pain, but also comes with rewards. He says marriage was never meant to be a magical union. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Then we get a confusing ending scene here with Alex proposing to her and her saying yes as God looks on. Alex puts the ring on her finger and she says, I thought it would feel tight and constricting, but it fits perfect. And that's the end of the episode. And I do like the symbolism in this scene where she talks about the ring feeling tight and constricting, because that's what she thought marriage was going to be like at the beginning. But now she says the ring fits perfectly because her marriage is going to fit perfectly. So I do like that symbolism. But I'm really confused, or I was really confused by this scene, because at the beginning of the episode, they were already engaged. They were planning the seating arrangement for their wedding reception the night before their wedding. That scene was occurring. But then the episode ends with them getting engaged, which doesn't make sense, since they already were engaged. And God looking on, smiling after giving her advice throughout the episode. But he gave her advice, all this advice, after she was already engaged, not before she was engaged. So yeah, this ending kind of confused me. I'm guessing, what I could guess, I think what happened is God maybe took her back in time to before Alex proposed to her, I guess. I was thinking, did he like fly around the earth like Christopher Reeve and Superman and reverse time? But of course, he's God, right? He doesn't need to fly around the earth. He can just reverse time anytime he wants. So the beginning scene in the episode, are we supposed to, I guess we're supposed to now assume that that never occurred, that didn't take place, since she's getting happily engaged now. I guess they never argued about the wedding reception. I don't know. I'm not sure what was happening here. I was thinking that maybe the episode should have ended with the beginning scene. You know, God should have taken her back to that beginning scene, and instead of arguing about the seating arrangements, she should have just compromised and gotten over it and kind of worked it out, I guess. I don't know. I have to say, though, this episode, out of the 4 I've seen, I hate to say this, I think this is my least favorite episode of the 4 I've seen, just because of that confusing ending. I still enjoyed it, but the ending kind of surprised me. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? I guess what I was thinking, I guess the writers wanted her to start her entire engagement over, I guess. That's the only thing I could figure out. But I did enjoy the humor in this episode, like the other episodes. That scene where God is mentioning all the movies to her, I thought that was funny, and she had never seen any of them. It actually reminded me of myself, because my friend Cricket the other day was talking about The Princess Bride, and I told her that I had never seen it, and she couldn't believe it. This episode also has a good message, like all the other episodes, talking about how marriage is hard work and you have to keep working on it your entire life and not give up. And it reminded me of a couple that I met years ago that said they had never had an argument, and they had been married for like 30 years or more. Never had an argument. I don't know. I found that hard to believe. I don't know if they were serious or what. I mean, I guess they were serious, but I don't know if I can believe that. I thought Carrie was cute in this episode, the actress who plays Danica. It's the first time I've ever seen her. And what do you think? You think Danica should be getting married? You think she'll be able to keep her promise that she made to God about compromising? because she likes to have things her own way. And in relationships, you can't always have your own way. And it got me thinking. Everyone wants to get married, but some people aren't made for marriage. Some people just aren't good at it. That's why the divorce rate is so high. But I do appreciate this episode addressing marriage and marital problems because that's a big part and an important part of society and the church as well. So, yeah, another good episode. I enjoyed it. Let's see. Now, the next episode, the 5th episode, I haven't seen yet, so I don't know what it's all about. I saw a little screenshot of from it, and it showed some guy out in the woods. I think he was playing a guitar or something. And I think I read the synopsis really quick. It said something about he gets away from everything to, I don't know, I guess think about his life or something and ask God for help or something. But I don't know. We'll see what that's all about. That'll be next week. Until then, thanks for being here, and you keep the faith. Keep smiling, keep your friends close, and keep your great American family closer.